Greetings everyone, welcome back to the Unlimited Power TCG channel. Today we're taking a first look at the Shadows of the Galaxy previews that were shared just this week by
Fantasy Flight Games.
Thank you very
FFG,
much.
as they're called.
Cool, so let's get into it. We saw 2 new leaders, I think, and that we'll move the slides on, and 7 new cards. So our first new leader is Moff Gideon.
Yep, from the Mandalorian TV series.
So this is going to be one of the starter decks.
That's right.
His action is exhaust him and attack with a unit that costs 3 or less. If it's attacking a unit, it gets +1/+0 for this attack. He is a 5 control to flip him over, and he is a 3/6, and he keeps basically the same ability. Each friendly unit that costs 3 or less when attacking gets +1/+0 and gains Overwhelm, and he has Overwhelm. So any leftover damage hits your opponent's base when you are killing things.
This is a bit of a weird one. A unit having Overwhelm when it only has 3 attack is a bit odd. So you probably want to be buffing his attack up a bit, otherwise you're not going to get a lot of use out of the Overwhelm for it. But the action that he has on his leader side suggests that is not going to see much use in an aggro deck, which is kind of what you'd think for a leader that buffs low-cost units, but it only buffs them when they're attacking another unit, which is much more of a control or mid-range strategy to clear the enemy's board so that you can then put extra damage into the base once they've basically been neutralized. So it's a bit of a strange one, this. I'm sure it'll work well with the deck when we see the full contents of the starter deck, but as it is green control weenie stuff, a lot of the green Imperial stuff is like big stats and single units and so forth in Spark of Rebellion. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah, I see it as like chip damage, but maybe I'm wrong here in that I just feel like basically every time you are clearing the board, you will be doing chip damage. Chip damage in of itself is useful.
Yeah. Well, the more you keep the board clear, the more your enemy can't attack you back and kill your units, and then the more units you'll have the next turn for doing a bit more damage. So that's kind of where that is.
So it'll be interesting to see. This is guys obviously coming with a starter deck. Whenever that starter deck does come out, we'll try and do some sort of tips and tricks video on that as well.
Yep.
I am looking forward to getting some more starter decks to play with, that's for sure.
A couple more bits of information that are on this card that are worth noting. It does have the S or special rarity symbol on the card. So that is likely to be a starter exclusive. You won't get it in boosters, just like Luke and Vader in the starter set. And it's also card number 7 out of 262. Which is 10 cards more than Spark of Rebellion was, so that's interesting to know as well.
Okay. Our second leader is obviously his adversary from the TV show, The Mandalorian. It's maybe a little bit strange that they've actually called him The Mandalorian, not Din Djarin. But he is... when you play an upgrade, you may exhaust this leader. If you do, exhaust an enemy unit with 4 or less HP remaining. Thoughts?
Playing an upgrade is a bit of a tricky mechanic because upgrades are kind of easy to get rid of in a way. There are cards that deal with getting rid of upgrades, and there are cards that deal with getting rid of units, and they don't care whether they've got upgrades or not. So playing lots of upgrade-heavy decks haven't really seen a lot of use in the meta so far. But having said that, I'm casting my eye at this with an eye to how it will affect the current cards that are in play in the current metagame that is in play. And there's going to be a whole set worth of other cards in this set that we don't know anything about. So I'm evaluating this under completely incomplete information, essentially.
So one of the cards we're going to get to in the next 7 is the Bounty card. I believe it's called Wanted, and it is an upgrade you play on your enemy to basically make their character wanted or bountied. So then you would be able to play that on one enemy, so when that enemy dies, you gain experience, and I guess if you played that on one enemy, on the other enemy that's less than 4 health, or it's less than 6 health once he's flipped over after 6 mana, then you're exhausting them as well. And I guess exhausting your opponent's powerful units every turn, there is value in that.
And that's the point. As you just said, when you play an upgrade, normally upgrades you're thinking of as being positive things, beneficial to your side, but upgrades can be played on your side or their side. There's a very famous upgrade called Traitorous, which is designed to be played on opposing units, and that will count as having played an upgrade. You can then exhaust this leader and then exhaust another unit. There's a card called Entrench, which is a blue card that in theory gives you +3/+3, but also stops the units played on from being attacked bases. So it's a great double-edged upgrade as well. And bounties are obviously things you play on opposing units. So if there are a lot of different bounty cards, and so far we've only been seeing one, which we'll see a little bit later in this, then that could be very interesting indeed.
Yeah, perfect. He comes in as 4/7, seems decent. Overall, I think he should be good, and he'll be getting a starter deck. So I imagine there'll be some synergies around upgrades in the starter deck that will be new for the new set. So it should be interesting.
Straight away, though, there's going to be a lot of comparisons drawn to Boba Fett, who has the same 4/7 stats, but he's a 5 cost to turn over, not a 4 cost. And his ability is better, comparable. It depends on take your pick in the context in which it's played. But the fact that he has better stats for a lower cost than Mando straight away is going to be a point of maybe some contention.
Okay. I guess the S is on this card as well, so it's likely, like you said, it's going to be maybe a starter exclusive.
Yep.
So that's the 2 leaders that we saw today. And I guess the timeline of Shadows of the Galaxy, the artwork that I shared at the start showed Darth Maul and Cad Bane, so I guess we can potentially see some other sort of edge case characters, I guess.
They've said it's going to be a very underworld-focused kind of set with characters and themes that run towards the edge of society rather than in the limelight of authority necessarily.
Cool. I saw a very cool image of Lando Calrissian from the Solo movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I also am interested to see if we maybe see Darth Maul's brother making a sneak appearance.
Savage Opress, yeah,
that would be nice. Okay, let's jump on and see some of these cards that we saw. And we start with Grogu, who is a 0/5 for 2 cost, and his action is exhaust an enemy unit. In of itself, in that it's just 2 cost, and you can pull any big hitting enemy out of the game every turn while he lingers. I think that's actually not too bad.
Oh, absolutely. He's very defensive. He's obviously very defensive.
He's an S rarity as well.
Yep. So it's interesting that a lot of the cards that they're showing here are S rarity, so these will be a lot of the starter exclusives, with the exception, obviously, of that bounty card in the middle there.
Yep. So Grogu is interesting. I guess you could buff him to do some damage, but he's really there just to be a pain to deal with, I guess.
When these were previewed on the Fantasy Flight Games stream, one of the things they discussed was giving Grogu a lightsaber, or maybe 2, to make him like +3/+3.
I guess, given the Jedi lightsaber. I mean, he is a Force user.
Exactly.
Okay, next up is Wanted. So you attach that likely to an enemy unit, but you don't have to. You could attach it to yours if you want. And it basically it gains bounty. And when this unit is defeated or captured, its opponent collects the bounty.
Yep. So there's literally no good reason to put it on a friendly unit in that case, because if you do, then the opponent will get to ready 2 resources. It doesn't change their stats. It's basically a 0 cost to get some extra resources. I feel like this is an early game play. Is it? It doesn't necessarily have to be at 0 cost. It can be any time in the game you want to play it. You're going to be killing units throughout the entire game. So if you've got a chance to play that on an opposing unit that you know you're about to use energy conversion labs to ambush a big unit in and kill, then what's your opponent going to do about it? I suppose that's kind of challenging it. Maybe faking them out and putting it on a little unit and then trying to protect one they have to be protecting more. It's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, I think early game as well, just 2 resources could be quite big in like turn 2 or 3. And because it's got no cost, could give you like a jump ahead in terms of initial momentum.
Part of the reason Boba Fett is so powerful is because he allows you to ready between 1 to 3 extra resources on turn 5 when he comes in. So readying an extra 2 for 0 cost and killing a unit, which you're going to be doing anyway. Yeah, sure. Excellent. We'll have some of that.
Cool. Next up is Moff Gideon's Light Cruiser. So this is a villainy card for an 8 cost.
Yep.
7/8 with Overwhelm, so same sort of keeping the synergy with Moff Gideon. When played, if you control Moff Gideon as a leader unit, as a leader or a unit,
so play that means if he's a leader before he's deployed, or he's deployed, either way, it doesn't matter. If he is the leader of your deck, then you'll always satisfy this condition.
You get to play a villainy card that costs 3 or less from your hand or your discard pile for free.
Yep. We've seen that mechanic exist already a couple of times in Darth Vader Home 1 and a few other things. Home 1 is obviously an 8-drop heroic green ship with similar sort of ability to deploy a unit, similar-ish stats, but it grants restore rather than overwhelm. So I don't know, maybe the two of them meant to go up against each other. Who knows?
Yeah, well, we're going to come to a 3-cost villainy unit in a second when we look at the Dark Trooper. I might be calling that the wrong name, but it is the Dark Trooper from the Mandalorian. So, do you want to jump to the next slide and we'll see? You want to start with him, the Phase 3 Dark Trooper? He is the 3-cost villainy card who has Sentinel. He is 3/3. When combat damage is dealt to this unit, give an experience token to this unit if it survives the damage.
So, is it going to survive the damage when combat damage is dealt to it? Probably not. If you're attacking it, you're going to attack it because you kind of want to kill it. Then again, it being a Sentinel means you might be looking to do a bit of chip damage or two to it, so it kind of forces your opponent to attack it and try and kill it. The better things about it is that it's a 3-cost 3/3 Sentinel in green villainy, which means it'll synergize with that, and you could play that straight up with the legendary Darth Vader 7-drop as well. He'll do the same thing. So maybe this will be a better choice than Cell Block Guard for playing through Vader.
Yeah, the only other thing I thought is you could use this to just clear like low hit point enemies to just make its output damage more offensive when he inevitably gets killed from Sentinel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is that it's also another trooper unit and also another droid unit. So cards in the existing set that buff troopers or buff droids will be having more things to buff through this. So that could potentially be of some use as well, adding to those decks as concepts.
Cool. So this is an S as well. So it really thinks that the starter decks are going to be pretty fleshed out for the new set. Let's go over to calculated lethality. This is a 4-cost. Defeat a non-leader unit that costs 3 or less. For each upgrade that was on that unit, give an experience token to a friendly unit. So this looks a bit like a direct counter to potentially what the Mandalorian's deck might be trying to do. You know, like Mandalorian's deck's trying to fill up you with upgrades. Cool. Well, if you've got a 3-cost character that you've put 2 shields and maybe something else on, we're just going to take all that as experience for us. And in some ways,
it gets better than that. It does actually get better.
Tell me.
There's a lot of comparisons to be drawn between this and Takedown, which is a blue card for 4 cost, which is just blue, not blue Imperial, and that defeats a non-leader unit that costs it defeats any unit that has like
5 or less hit points.
5x hit points left, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah,
and you'd think that would probably be more powerful than this, but think about it a different way. Let's say Mando puts a bounty on your unit. You play this to defeat your unit. It had an upgrade on it. You get to give an experience token to a friendly unit. Suddenly, you're killing one of your friends and getting experience for doing so.
I think
maybe it's not just to be used to kill opposing units.
Yeah, if you've got a character that's got a few upgrades on them that you know is going to die next turn as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, why not just take him out and take the experience tokens across? So this is an interesting card. I thought, and the fact that it defeats 3 or less. Normally, like if you look at Takedown and Vanquish, they're talking about hit points, whereas this is now talking about
or your only character or whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So this counters decks that are going to bring small characters and throw loads of upgrades on them, which is cool.
Well, look at it. We've only seen one bounty. Maybe there are more bounties. Maybe there's a play where your opponent wants to stack bounties on one of your characters for an easy kill. They do so, and then you use this and benefit from those bounties.
Yeah, very true. Okay, let's talk about the Razor Crest. It is a 3/4 Mandalorian vehicle space. It's got Restore 2. When played, you may return an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand. So it does definitely seem like this is synergizing with the Mandalorian leader and upgrades.
Given that upgrades are bounties, it absolutely does, yes. It's worth noting that the ship is not a rebel unit, because it wouldn't be.
Nope.
It is a villainy heroism aspect, which is fine. 4-cost spaceships, 3/4 with Restore 2. That could see a role in quite a few potentially control decks, that.
Yeah, sorry, vigilance hero. You said villainy hero.
Did I?
Yeah, no problem. It's easy to make that mistake.
Sorry.
Yeah, vigilance. I think 3/4 with Restore 2 is very decent. If you look at the Restored Arc Fighter, a lot of people like that. That's a 2/3 Restore 2, and it's 1 less mana, so this one seems reasonably well costed, especially with the extra ability there as well.
The stats aren't great, but the Restore 2 helps it a great deal. and the returning an upgrade from your discard pile to your hand is currently, in the current meta with the current Spark Rebellion cards that we know, a bit niche. But we don't know what's going to be coming in the rest of this new set, so there could be a lot more play with that in there.
Okay, and then let's look at the final card.
Okay, final card with our new guest who's just logged on mid-recording, and I'm saying that out loud so he knows what's going on.
Cool. This is the Mandalorian's rifle. So attach this to a non-vehicle unit. When played, if the attached unit is the Mandalorian, he captures an exhausted enemy non-leader unit. Put the capture card face down under him until he leaves play. It's a +3, +0, and it's a 3-cost heroism.
Yep. So you play it on Mando. The captured unit comes under. It triggers the bounty that they've got. It refreshes the resources that the bounty says that it does. There's massive amounts of synergy with this, of course. So you can see a little combo building up nicely straight away from what they've shown with this.
It does seem really powerful, and I'm just jumping in the last minute. But I'm just looking at this, and I'm just thinking of the games that I've been playing, and admittedly, I got absolutely smashed by people loading up upgrades, but mostly because I've not been quick enough off the mark to kill things off. And it just feels like quite a lot, because this is 3. The bounties, I can't remember, the bounty is bounty 0.
Yes, the one where you see
the bounty
0.
we've been shown is cost 0. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, and that's the only one we've seen so far, and that's the one that gives us back resources. But it's like, so in your hand, you need the Mandalorian ready to go.
Yep.
You need to have your bounty ready to go, and you need this ready to go. And I just feel like getting all your ducks in a line is cool if it goes off, but you might have been better off just trying to kill something, or not really worry about the bounty and just use this as a temporary, because this will work on anything, even if it has been upgraded to bollocks. Like, so just because if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you capture this card, capture a card away, then all the upgrades are going to be destroyed.
They did say what the mechanics for capture were, and I don't recall off the top of my head, I must confess. Let's have a quick...
Yeah, I didn't read that, unfortunately. So when it says...
Oh, no, so go on.
When it says attached to the Mandalorian, then this means it will be attached to the leader, the Mandalorian, I assume.
No, it doesn't have to be. And this is something that I was about to bring up. They did show off another card, which you haven't got in here, which is absolutely cool, and I've got about to show. And that's the Mandalorian, the unit. In the same way that Luke is both a leader and a unit, there's a Mandalorian leader and the Mandalorian unit. So as soon as we're done here, I'll show that card as well, just so that we can incorporate that into this.
No, I don't remember that. I just think that this could be quite powerful, but I think people are going to spend a lot of time trying to get... It's a bit like, in Tetris.
Yeah.
When you spend all that time trying to get that perfect drop where you get all 4 lines at the same time.
Oh, right, yeah.
When actually sometimes you're better off, or often you're better off just taking the 2, especially if you're playing competitively.
Yeah. Capturing units is indeed, it loses all of its upgrade. It's placed face down under the unit that captures it. And once the capturing unit leaves play or goes away or whatever, then it's rescued and goes back exhausted under its original owner's control.
That's a cool mechanic. I like that they've added some new mechanics.
I just think this could be quite tempting to overload. I'm not sure whether the bounties are worth it, really, is what I'm...
They've said there are going to be 3 new mechanics in the set, and they've explained what 2 of them are. One of them is bounties, one of them is capturing, and the third they've only given out the name for. And the third one is called smuggling.
Yes.
And they just let that hang and then moved on and said we'll explain more of it later.
Cool.
Quite cool.
Okay. Yeah, so the only other thing to say then is I put the blog to all the information that I got and the official card list, because they've started putting out the official card list on their website. I put the links there. This is coming on the 12th of July.
Pre-release will be a week earlier than that.
Pre-release will be a week earlier. Cool. So I think if there is one more card and you can show it, Mark, then let's do that.
Slide here. Oh yeah, shiny slide. Woo!
That's the shiny. Please click the subscribe button responsibly slide.
Even though I've only been in this episode for literally the last slide of the...
Hey, it's the thought that counts.
And I'm not eating my dinner while I do it.
Let's present this other window with the other thing.
Oh, cool.
That's the leader, though, isn't it? Yeah, that's the leader. That's just for home. Yeah.
Oh, crap. I've completely mussed that up. My bad. Sorry.
No, it's okay. 100%. I'm glad that we get all of...
Have they actually shown the unit? I don't remember seeing the unit.
Yes, he was presented on, I think, an affiliated website somewhere.
Right.
Oh,
Well, I
right.
saw the stuff on the official website because I had a play with their deck builder and that, and it's actually quite good.
Yeah.
I hope they expand it a little bit more so you can put. Because one thing it's missing on the collection thing was A, it's a bit slow and clunky, but also the option for foiling isn't there, only the option for hyperspace.
Okay.
And I wish it'd let you put multiples of a card as well. So how many of said card have you got?
Here we go.
Have
Here
you got
he
it or
is.
not?
Let's open that image in a new tab.
Shannon?
And let's share this instead. Cool. So.
Perfect. So I'm going into this one blind. I haven't seen this card at all.
Yep, that's fine.
No, I haven't seen this either. So
There you
5/6
go.
Sentinel. Vigilance, heroism. When played, you may heal all damage from a unit that costs 2 or less and give 2 shield tokens to it. Wow, that's interesting.
Like a Grogu, maybe.
Like a 0/5 Grogu that's just going to exhaust their units every turn.
And might become a 3/8 Grogu when you give him a Jedi lightsaber or whatever it boosts his stats up to. Obviously, straight away he's comparable to Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's also a 6-cost Sentinel with similar-ish stats. So that fits in a similar kind of slot there. But
I don't think this is going to be very good.
I think it.
It's too many points. So it's a 6 cost.
Yep.
It's only got 6 defense. Admittedly, that's quite high. But it's not going to have any immediate impact unless you happen to have a unit that's got 2 or less on the board. And
playing a Sentinel is an immediate impact straight away.
It is.
Because they have to go into the Sentinel.
I don't know. I just don't think it's. I think it's too low stats for too high a cost. Without this is the sort of target that you're just going to immediately try and nick. I mean, at least it's 6, so you can't take down it.
I think I kind of like it just because there is some pretty strong 2-cost cards you could just put 2 shield tokens on, and if there is other buffs. And we've been talking a lot about the Mandalorian deck having potential being a buffing deck. It sounds like that's one of the mechanics it's going to have.
I think this is a good target to buff up.
Yeah, and it's another card you could put the Mandalorian's rifle on as well and capture units with.
Yeah.
True.
Rather
Yeah.
than just the leader. So, yeah, it has potential.
Cool. Yeah, I don't hate it.
There's a lot of potential in what we've been shown so far.
I'm excited for the next set of stuff. I really am. The other, I don't know. I know you've already talked about him. The other leader that they've put in there, his spaceship looked quite good.
It did, yeah, 100%. We've talked about that as well.
If you're bringing him as a leader, that looked like an auto take for me.
Yeah, I think you'll probably get at least one of the Moff Gideon spaceships, maybe even 2 inside the starter deck. So that's pretty much it. That's our first look at Shadow of the Galaxy. I was thinking Spark of the Rebellion there. No, Shadow of the Galaxy. So that's the first look. As more cards come out, we'll try and do maybe some other videos where we jump in and talk about it. And it's going to be ramping up over the next 3 months. So leave any questions or comments down below. There's probably some synergies we missed. If you figured those synergies, leave them in the comments. We'd appreciate
we're clearly
that.
stupid. So tell us where we've been stupid. Tell us everything we've missed, please.
We need it. We need to know these things. Subscribe responsibly.
This is the way. Yep.
This is the way. Yep. All right. Thanks again, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.
Are you not getting unlimited power? No, is that not our catchphrase now?
You want me to do that?
Yes.
Unlimited power!